Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their formal systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all have an indirect object, the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. In the Lincoln-Douglas debates of 1858 were a series of 7 debates between Abraham Lincoln, the Republican, and Senator Stephen Douglas, the Democratic Party candidate. And these debates previewed the issues that Lincoln would face in the aftermath in his victories in the 1860 presidential election. The main issue discussed in all 7 of these debates was slavery. The Dred Scott decision was a landmark decision by the U.S. Supreme Court and held that the federal government had no power to regulate slavery in the territories, and that people of African descent, both slaves and free, were not protected by the Constitution and were not U.S. citizens.
The purpose of the Dred Scott decision is to make property, and nothing but property, of the Negro in all states of the Union. It is the old issue of human rights versus property rights. It is the eternal struggle between 2 principles. One, the common right of humanity. The other, the divine right of kings. It is the same spirit which says, you work, you toil, you earn bread, and I'll eat it. As a nation, we began by declaring all men are created equal. There was no mention of an exception to that rule in the Declaration of Independence, but we now practically read it as all men are created equal, except Negroes. If we are to accept this doctrine of race and class discrimination, what is to stop us in the future from decreeing all men are created equal, except Negroes, foreigners, Catholic, Jews, or just poor people? Let each state mind its own business, says Judge Davis. Why stir up trouble? This is the complacent policy of indifference to evil, and a policy I cannot but hate. A house divided against itself cannot stand. This government cannot endure permanently half slave and half free.
In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them time to time of attempts by their legislator to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They, too, have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. Patrick Henry's most famous speech was given at the Virginia House of Burgess on March 23, 1775, proving he was the rhetorical backbone of the American Revolution. He strategically used this passionate call to arms to convey the pertinence of resisting the rule of the crown, which ultimately gave birth to the Revolutionary War.
The war is inevitable, and let it come. I repeat it, sir, let it come. It is vain, sir, to accentuate the matter. Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace, but there is no peace. The war has actually begun. The next gale that sweeps through the north will bring to our ears the clashing sound of resounding arms. Our brethren are already in the field. Why do we stand here idle? What is it that gentlemen want? What would they have? Is life so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I do not know what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death!
We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may have right to. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. The flag, written by Michelle Selby, is a poem in honor of men and women who have given their lives for the freedom and independence of our country. Our country receives every single day. Throughout the poem, she explains the importance of the colors of the flag as individuals and what the flag represents as a whole. Just like the United States of America, individuals united as one. We stand in adversity, we rise, and we refuse to fall.
Red for the blood shed in the name of freedom, for which we fought, united. Blue for the oceans of time we have crossed, remaining the land of the free. White for the peace we wish to share, all men created equal. Stars to remember those who fought throughout the night, bravely for our land. Stripes to remind us of the lashings taken by the prisoners of war. With a seal, in God we trust. We each are one of many, in which we stand united in brotherhood, a symbol of pride, a salute to those who died in the fight, a blanket to cover us in the times of need, waving high to show we are still here, undefeated. With honor, you are presented to the world.